Okay, so we are gonna do. Oh, this is. We're gonna do another Q&A with Corin. So I have Nyx. I'm wearing her, and she might wake up to eat. But hopefully, she'll make it through this. So Corin again doesn't know the questions. I'm just gonna get his perspective on kind of how things are going so far with the first 3 months of Nyx being here. So first, going back to labor and delivery, we might have talked a little bit about this in our labor and delivery video, but was labor and delivery what you thought it would be like?
No, I thought labor and delivery would be a lot more intense than it was.
Intense for who?
I mean, I don't know how you felt, but intense for me, just more nerve-wracking and like more nurses and more like stuff going on, more like communication with people. It was pretty lax. It was pretty like, we had some instances where when you first got to the hospital, I guess Nyx's cord got wrapped around her throat, so it got a little frantic at that point. A couple nurses rushed into the room because the monitor was like getting low and they were a little worried.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a little like nervousness, tension for myself and you when we first got there. But once it opened up with that, it sort of eased the rest
Everything
of the time.
else.
Yeah, because like that happened and I was like, all right, it can't get a lot worse than that. But it also got me a little nervous because I would be looking at that monitor every single time now, and like when it dropped a little lower, I would get nervous. But the whole pregnancy, like baby coming out, it was pretty smooth. I mean, we were just
Like the actual delivery?
the actual delivery was just like, one nurse in there. She was pretty calm. Like for them, this is nothing new. For us, though, it's our first time doing it, so we're expecting more. We're expecting more communication, which I mean, I guess doesn't really happen unless you ask questions or something goes wrong. But other than that, it was pretty smooth. And like the baby came out, and I didn't think
Bella,
it was
get out.
Our what
dog
I see
is,
on
our dog is laying in front of us wanting.
It's not what you see on like Grey's Anatomy or ER or whatever like that. It's a lot smoother and
I mean, maybe for some people though it is like how it is on TV, but in our situation it was like a very easy labor and delivery, which we had not a difficult pregnancy, but had to do like progesterone shots in the beginning and like a lot more intensive stuff and like we had to do fertility treatment to even get pregnant. So like maybe that was like our good karma to have like an easy labor and delivery because of like how the whole pregnancy started.
Yeah, it could have prepared us a little bit more too because we saw like the worst stuff beforehand. So that was just a cakewalk.
My question was, did you get nervous at any point? But you basically talked about that because that was like the only one time when it was like scary was when my
and also I know you were trying to do like without the epidural, and that was painful. So there were points where you would be hunched over the bed on a medicine ball, and you can take a lot of pain, and to see you on the side of the bed wincing and like grimacing and then eventually
I was, like,
asking
really
for it.
in pain.
And I listened to a couple podcasts with you beforehand saying like code words and like make sure that I want to do this. So like when you're saying I want to do the epidural, I'm like, well, are you sure? And I'm trying to like make sure that that's what you want.
Do you remember what I said on the way to the hospital when you asked what the code word would be?
Yeah, I think it was just, I want an epidural.
Yeah, I said if I tell you I want an epidural, then I just want the epidural. I don't need a code word. Like, I knew
it was important for you to, like, because your mom didn't have an epidural, so I don't know if people have, like, legacies where, they're trying to impress their mother. Or,
I was not trying to impress
not
my
you,
mom.
I'm just saying, like, if that's the reason.
I just felt like I wanted to be able to be like, I did it. Like,
yeah, but then...
But I don't know why, because I got an epidural at 1 centimeter, so...
So I was nervous at that point. I was nervous when the nurses came rushing into the room when the cord was wrapped around her neck because I could see that they looked nervous, and the screen was red, which wasn't a good sign. So, they don't tell you what's going on, but you know something isn't happening.
Right.
That is the right thing's not happening. So, those are when I was nervous. Other than that, I wasn't really nervous until she came out and she didn't look like us, and then I was like, did they switch our baby?
Except for, she came out of me. So over the past 3 months, like, how has fatherhood been so far? Is it like what you expected, or?
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I think you like gain a little bit more appreciation for having a baby, and you start understanding more stuff as time goes along. Like, in the beginning everybody's like, oh, do you love her so much? And it's not, like, of course I do, but like you start to love them, like it builds up even more as they become more of like like more and more of a human being, like they
Yeah.
already are, obviously, once they're in your belly and like you're going through the pregnancy. And once they're born, obviously that's emotional and special, but like
Yeah.
they haven't done anything yet. Like, it's like, so they haven't like impressed me or anything like that, like.
Yeah.
But as months go on, and as like she's smiling and starting to roll over and do all this stuff that like is like benchmarks, or like sucking her thumb, it's like that stuff just builds up even more and more and more, like
When
your
she
love
like
for them.
laughs.
Yeah, it's like little stuff like that like, when you see them kicking on an ultrasound or something, you're like, oh, that's amazing and I love her, but like you never held her or like really had a bond with her, like
Yeah.
I can touch your belly, but I could have done that before you were pregnant or something. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like it hits you more and more each day. And it was like there was a comedian that said something like, when his daughter was born, everybody was like, oh, was it the most amazing thing? And he was like, he didn't want to lie, but he think he lied, and he was like, yeah, it was the most amazing. And he was like, but it wasn't until like 2 weeks later when I was holding her on the couch and like nobody was asking me anything, and I just looked at her and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. Like, it'll hit you when it hits you, like
Yeah.
your moment is different. It's not going to maybe be when she's born, or like could be a couple months into it where you're like, holy shit, like this is cool, like. So I think that happens, like there's little points that happens to me all the time where I'll just look at her, or like she'll do something and I'm just like, wow, this is, it's special, like. So that's fatherhood's been cool in that sense, where it's like you're just figuring stuff out, and and maybe you don't think I help as much as I do, but like, I'm learning these things, and occasionally, it takes time, and like you try to help as much as you can and figure out, what you can do to help. And, that's fatherhood is that, you just, everybody's different, someone might be all about doing everything as much as they can. I'm a little bit more lax, where I don't do as much as I maybe could, but you start to figure that stuff out, and I don't know, it's cool. It's fun being a dad. And as Nix gets older, I'll meet other dads and learn from them. And I mean, we've had some friends that we've met up with that, have given us little tips, and you might not want all their tips, but like, one of our friends told us a way to hold the car seat, which has helped a lot, that I love.
Just
and
like little things.
Things that, like, I mean, it's good to get out with other couples and talk with other dads, and eventually as she gets older, we'll have groups and swimming and this and that, where we'll meet other parents that are going through their own experiences. So it's all different, So, but fatherhood's cool in that sense. It's its own little club.
I would say one of the best pieces of advice we got is just listen to what people have to say and then take what you want. Like,
It's
because
also,
everybody's gonna have their own opinions on like for us, we still are trying to get in a rhythm of like how to do nighttime, and like now she's napping in her crib, and it's like people can tell you all their different things, but it's like listen, and then if you like that, then you do it. If you don't like it, then you don't do it.
It's also cool. I've found fatherhood, a cool experience when I talk to my dad now, or when he's around family. We'll say stories of how I was, and like maybe that's why I do something a certain way, or what I did to annoy him. Like stuff you don't find out when you're just a kid. Like but now that you have a kid, they feel maybe more comfortable to tell you like, oh, you did this that annoyed me, and it's stuff to look out for that you know, maybe she'll do that I'll watch for or
Do
something.
you think now that you're a parent, you almost have like a greater appreciation for your parents? Or not yet?
I don't think so. I mean, I've always been connected to my parents.
No, I don't mean that you're not connected to your parents. I'm just like, as a parent now.
No,
like,
I've always appreciated that they've been good
that's
parents. I
not
don't know what your
Okay,
question is.
so I'm trying to say like, and maybe because we only have one kid, but like when you have, like, you realize that parenting, and Nix is only 3 months old, so it's not like we've been through all these like struggles with her, or like, you know, when she gets to high school and if she's doing sneaking out or drinking or whatever, it's like you'll realize, wow, like I put my parents through all this stuff. So it's like I'm saying like an appreciation in the way that like your parents had to deal with you as a kid, like. But I mean, she's only 3 months old, and we haven't really had really difficult times, and we only have one kid. But if you have like, you know, I'm one of 7, so my mom had like 7 kids running around. That's like a very, you know, you realize like, wow, I'm like tired with one baby. How do you do it with so many babies?
Yeah, it's
so
tough.
I meant like
yeah.
an appreciation in that way. Like obviously I know you're close with your parents and you love them and all that stuff, but I'm just saying, do you feel like so far you have a greater appreciation for like what they've gone through? Because now you have like a father lens on,
Yeah.
versus just like a son lens.
Yeah, I haven't really, I mean, looked at it that way, but now that you say it, you know, it's like a lot of other factors weigh into when you have a kid, you know. It's like you obviously want to continue to work on your relationship and stuff like that. And I know for me, I mean, like my parents are divorced, so it's like you wonder how much having 3 kids weighed on like their relationship and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I haven't noticed it yet or thought about it enough to think, you know, how much more I appreciate them or what my appreciation level for them is. But like, there's a lot of other factors that still go into, you know, having kids. And 1 kid is a lot, and
Yeah.
3 kids, 4 kids, 5 kids is like, you still have to go to work, you still have
Yeah.
to maintain a relationship, you still have to, you know, be social with people, and it's like, it's stuff you don't think about,
Yeah.
like when you're a kid.
And then also like again, Nix is only 3 months old, and like her food is all coming from me. So like we're not even like going out to dinner and buying her meals, and like the financial aspect of like I went to private school, or like how paying for college, you know, things like that we're gonna encounter. And it's like, you know, for me at least, having 1 kid so far, even just a little bit of time, and even pregnancy, like everything you go through in pregnancy, you're like, wow, like my mom did that, or your mom did that and had these kids. And so it's just like kind of able to look at it from like a parent perspective than just like a son or daughter perspective, which is kind of cool. So I don't know if you like thought about that yet. But.
Yeah, no, not really.
Okay, so as a parent so far in the past 3 months, have you ever felt like worried or guilty? And worried in the sense that like you didn't do something right, or like guilty that like you go into work, when you go into the office you leave at like 6 a.m. and then you get home at 6 p.m. or you go to the gym, or like do you ever feel guilty that like you're not spending enough time with her, or like present in the moment enough? Like, do you ever feel like worried or guilty or anything?
I don't think so. I think, you know, I'm like, that's who I am as a person, you know, like, I don't know. I'm not gonna just like my father and like still had to go to work when he had me, and I have a great relationship with my father. Like, I make the most of every moment like I have with her, you know, like, and if I enjoy watching TV or something like that, like I'm not gonna run upstairs and like when she gets older, I'm obviously gonna play with her and do all those fatherly things, but like I don't feel guilty, or I don't want to like make myself feel guilty, because I'm obviously, I know that I'm gonna be a good father. I know that you know, I'm gonna support her with whatever she needs when she's older, and now when you ask me for something, I try to do it. But no, I don't feel guilty, or
Do you
like
ever feel worried? Like that?
not worried. No, I think
Not yet.
no. I mean, I think she's gonna know that I'm her father, and
No,
like,
not worried in that sense. Like in the first month, like I was worried when like to take her out. So
Oh, no,
so that's like
I'm
kind of
more-
separate from like guilt, but like just worried like you know, for her health, or like when we go to the doctor and we're like, oh, ask her about this, like, you know, you
I don't
kind
think
of,
so.
like,
I mean, like, she's been good, and you know, we haven't had any scares with her health wise
Knock
or
on
any
wood.
knock on wood. But like, you know, a couple nights ago, she had like a crying fit and was crying a lot and a lot and a lot, and it's like you try to do everything you can. You know, you give her the pacifier, or wrap her, or hold her, and it's like when you're holding your baby and like they're just like crying continuously in your ear. I mean, it gets one frustrating because it's like you're like, what else can I do? You know, um, and when you give them a bottle and do all the things that you can do, and they just keep crying, and it's like
Yeah.
you don't know. They can't talk to you and say like, oh, my stomach hurts or this or that. Like, so that's frustrating, and I get worried there because it's just like in that moment you're like, oh, will she ever stop crying? You know,
Yeah.
like, but I mean, everybody has little tricks that they do. Like, you know, that night we ended up wrapping her on me, and you're usually the one that gets wrapped. So like, we wrapped her on me, and she was still crying a little bit, but I walked around and I was real tired, so I fell asleep, and you were there, like,
Yeah.
but like she eventually stopped crying. But like those moments are tough because it's just like you hate to see them crying so much, and it's just like they're so little and just a constant crying, and like it's
Yeah.
just like they're breathing, and
Yeah.
like it's
I think
that
in
was
those
that's where I get
moments of
worried.
like when she is kind of like that unconsolable, is it inconsolable?
I don't know.
Unconsolable, I don't know. When we really can't like get her to stop crying. For me, I don't get frustrated in those moments. I think you get a little bit more frustrated, and it like I can tell like you're more like on edge when she's really in hysterics, and I'm more just like, it's okay, like, you know, babies do that. And like thankfully she's not like a colicky baby, so those moments where she's like crying for a constant while are like few and far between. I mean, she cries every day. There's a point in the day where she'll cry, and it's usually at night, but it's usually like 10 minutes, like
Yeah.
it's not, or like if she's hungry, and it's usually we can figure out like what it is. But like sometimes, and I think it's mostly when she's just so overtired, and that's where we really struggle with the nighttime routine. Then she doesn't fall asleep, and it's just like a cycle. So those moments are hard.
But I feel like I'm more of I want to like rough her up a little bit, and like, well, like
Yeah,
if the binky
you're-
drops or something dropped
Okay,
yesterday
yes.
that wasn't in a bad spot, and I was like,
It was a binky at the cafe at Nordstrom on the floor, in the restaurant.
but the binky part
it
was
like,
face up.
yeah,
Yes.
it was like this.
So I was like,
it
it's
wasn't,
fine,
you know, it was
just pick it up and give it to her, like, and
yeah, and I see where you're coming with that, but like she is just gonna be 3 months old in a week. Like babies' immune systems are not like so strong. Like when she's 6 months old and she's crawling, or 9 months when she crawls, whatever, and she like puts something in her mouth, I'm not gonna be like, oh my gosh, I need to sterilize it before you touch it. No, but like right now you have to like be mindful that their immune systems just aren't that strong yet. And that's where I'm coming from with like those things. And I'm not like a huge germaphobe or anything like that, but like with certain things, like if you're touching like breast pump parts or bottle parts or things that are going to go in her mouth right now, it is important that like your hands are clean, which like you do wash your hands and stuff, but you know,
I mean, when we
things
were
like
back
that.
home, when we were back home in New York, we were with family, and everyone was wearing different cloths and clothings, and everybody wanted to hold the baby. And I think you did a good job, and I was trying to be calm about it too. Is like she was getting a little rash on her skin because maybe she was touching different cloths and different materials
Yeah.
and getting used to that. And you handled it well. You know, it was like that was good. You know, like you didn't
What?
freak out too
Oh,
much, like
yeah.
taking her away from people.
No,
like
yeah.
once you first saw the rash, like, oh, nobody can hold her anymore. Like
No, yeah.
she got back, and
because we understand like the time that we get to spend with family right now is very limited because we live so far, but you know,
like, so I'm saying you don't overreact that much.
No,
Like,
I
I mean,
don't feel
I don't know
like-
if other parents would automatically like
Yeah, no.
take their kid away and say, oh my
Yeah.
God, she has a rash. I don't want anybody holding her anymore.
Right.
Or like she needs to be away from everybody.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I feel like for first-time parents, we are pretty relaxed, and I mean, I've been around just so many babies in my life, so like, it's fine, and you know, that stuff. But like the germ thing right now, I'm like, I do get a little worried about that. I'm not worried about it. I just take a little bit
Yeah,
extra precaution. But I'm not like crazy by any means. I just, if something falls on the floor, I'm not gonna not wash
Right.
it before giving it to her. You know, when she's older, like, and her immune system's a little better, then that's a different story. Okay, so now that Nyx is here, like, can you imagine not having her? Like, obviously you can remember the time before her, like the times when we would just say, "Hey, let's just go
Yeah,
somewhere."
what was it the other
like
day?
yesterday.
I think we were sitting down watching TV. She was upstairs sleeping, and I was just like, "You remember what like this was like when we were just
I
just
don't
watching
remember
TV?"
that, but
There was something where
no, but we were like about to go out yesterday, and we had like the car all packed and stuff, and you're like, "All right, we have everything," and I was like, "Yeah, we need the baby." Like, I mean, she was in the car seat like ready to go, but I was like, "We gotta get the baby." So like, obviously before we had her, even like when I was like very pregnant, it was so easy to just like run to the store, or like if it's just me and her in the car, and I'm like, I have to take her out to go in. Like, I can't just run in, even, or like when I had to take you to the train the other day, we can't just leave the baby here. Like, we have to like take her with us everywhere we go. So that's not what I mean. I don't mean like, can you imagine like not having to take her everywhere with us? But like, can you just like imagine not having her? Like, when we made the decision to like have a baby, like I just can't imagine life like not having her in it now.
I mean, I don't know what the hell you're asking me, but like, I can't. I don't know what that means. I can
Like,
no,
can
I
you
mean,
imagine a life without Nyx?
no, because
Yeah,
she's
then-
here. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, like,
I don't know.
I look at it as like, I mean, like when I think it was yesterday we were watching TV. She was upstairs taking a nap in her crib, and I was just like, you remember what it was like to just sit and watch TV, you know, like with nothing else going on. Like
Yeah.
it sort of was that feeling. Not to compare Nyx to our dogs, but like before we had Nyx and our dogs, you know, we got to walk them, walk them and feed them food. But when they would go to the groomers at like 8 a.m. and not come back until like 4 p.m, it was just like quiet and nothing here, and it's just like you forget what stuff is like when you don't have that person around or that they're your dogs around. Like, so I mean, like, well, maybe you don't think I do a lot. Like, I probably do more than what I did when she was here. Because it's just by nature that, like, I have to do more. I have to change diapers or do something else. So I am physically doing more than when she wasn't here. But, no, I mean, I can't imagine what it was like before she was here. But, like, there's little moments where if you do get time for a parent or something that to watch your kid, that like, you know, you appreciate those moments more when you're alone with your, you know, partner or something like that, because it's like you don't have those moments anymore. And like you won't. Like when we went to the hospital when she was born, you're like, this is the last time we'll ever leave the house, like, you know, without having to like grab a baby or do something, you know, like this is the last time ever. And
it's
like,
the last time ever that it's just like us.
Yeah.
Like, even if someone's watching her and we don't have to worry about taking her something, but it's the last time, like, it's only ever going to be us living in this house, like, without her, and, like, it's only ever going to, which is just so crazy to think about, like, 'cause she wasn't here and now she's here.
Yeah, it's wild. It's fun. I mean, you learn a lot, you know, just as they get older, and you know they change so fast, and they start. You're good at, you know, at the check marks of what a baby does, but it's just like it's really cool to see as they hit their check marks. You know, you'll tell me like this is the time where they start doing this, and it's like they start doing it, which is, you know, which is cool, and it's like she's rolling over now, and it's like this is the time where she starts rolling over, and next it'll be crawling and walking and talking, and it's, you know, it's fun.
Yeah, it's crazy. She's starting to like wake up. So the last question. So pregnancy felt like forever for me. Like it felt like a long time, right? Like the 9 months felt like. But like now that it's gone, doesn't it seem like, I don't know, it just feels like such a distant memory. Like it feels so far away, and it's only 3 months ago. Yeah. But like it feels like having a huge belly and all that. Does it feel that way for you too? Like, because when I was pregnant, because in the beginning I was on like bed rest, but I wasn't allowed to do like physical activity. I could only walk, And then so like basically I didn't work out my whole pregnancy, and like if there was heavy things to lift, like, you know, a lot of grocery bags, like you did a lot more of that work and stuff. And now it's just like once I had the baby, it was like, okay, I'm like back. I'm still not really working out, but like I can like do stuff again. I'm not like, you know, this fragile person. But like, doesn't that just feel so far away that you had to like just kind of like do everything? And
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it feels like a while. I mean, like you had a long pregnancy, it felt like, because, you know,
the whole first trimester.
Yeah, the first trimester was shots, and we had, you know, family members living with us, so it was like there were a lot of different like memorable things that happened that you can be like, oh, that happened then, like that far back. So yeah, it did take a while, and you know, but that's
it's just so crazy to me, like thinking back on pregnancy, because like it just like feels so far away. And like I have friends who are pregnant right now, and they're like, oh, I'm starting to feel the baby move, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I missed that. You know, I would be laying there and we'd see it move, or, you know. Anyways, I don't have any more questions. Do you have any questions?
No.
So boring. All right, that's it. Another Q&A with Corin. He thinks that...
Well, the Q&A's for me. Why am I going to ask you questions? We can have an episode where I ask you questions.
Okay, let's do it.
Right.
I'd be curious what kind of questions that you would come up with.
All right, so I'll come up with some questions and ask you.
Okay, so we'll do that.
Because I got to catch a movie.
Okay. Yeah, see, this one's always trying to leave me here alone with the baby. So that's it. So if you want to see Corin back on the channel, then come back.
Well, I'll have my questions for you next time, so that'll be our next... Well, you'll probably have other videos, but we'll have a video of me asking you questions, because I'm sure people want to hear your perspective and not just mine.
Okay, well, goodbye.